The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, from Common Core to the rocky healthcare rollout, and rocky is an understatement, as well as phony scandals like Benghazi, the president's credibility has taken an undeniable hit. A recent poll found that over half of Americans say the president isn't honest or trustworthy. The question is, can he regain his credibility, or is it gone forever? Here to weigh in is Fox News contributor, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel, thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Well, thanks a lot. Good morning, Tucker.
Is there any way for the president to get back what credibility he had after Obamacare?
No, I think it'd be very difficult for him to do that, Tucker, because it's not just the Obamacare. You know, your whole show this morning has been talking about a series of lies and deceit and loss of credibility, being it with the Obamacare and the lie about the keeping your health insurance. When you look at what is happening with Common Core, something that was not brought up through legislative means, but this major reformation of education policy in the United States of America was basically something just implemented by the administration. You talk about Benghazi and the lies that were there about, you know, a crude video being the impetus behind a spontaneous attack. Now we know this is a terrorist attack, and the president knew it was a terrorist attack. And, you know, General Keane talked about the lack of trust really between the president and his commanding generals, his senior generals. And so this is a series of things that has really come to a head, a seminal moment. And the president, for whatever reason, I don't think he understands. I think he really believes more campaigning and more political speeches are going to save him, but that's not the case this time.
Now, the White House said at first that it had no idea. It was shocked by the fact that some people lost their health care plans despite the promise that they could keep them. But anyone who looked carefully at Obamacare would have known that. Where were the press? Where were news organizations for the past 3 years? Shouldn't they, when we think about it, been digging into Obamacare and reporting this out before it happened?
Well, there is no doubt that the media has provided some type of protective shield for the president. But now, when you have 5 million Americans that have lost their insurance coverage and these cancellation notices going out, they cannot continue to perpetrate that lie. And, you know, the truth is becoming very, very evident. And again, you see a president that continues to say, I did not know, I was unaware. That erodes your credibility and the confidence that people have. And Tucker, one of the things you haven't talked about is the destabilizing of the Middle East, the lack of any type of clear strategic foreign policy as well. And so now our former allies, such as Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they have lost total confidence. As a matter of fact, Egypt is going into negotiations with Vladimir Putin and talking about promising them a naval base.
It's unbelievable. I watched pretty carefully, and I have no idea what our policy is. Are we for democracy in the Middle East? Are we against it? It's totally muddled. So the New York Times, things have gotten so bad that even the New York Times, one of the president's most consistent cheerleaders, the editorial page came out and said, you know what, this Obamacare thing, probably not working very well. And they really gave him the back of their hand. They said the worst thing they could muster, which was Obamacare is really like Katrina. What do you think of comparing Obamacare to Hurricane Katrina? Is that a valid comparison, would you say?
Well, that shows you the desperation because you have to once again invoke the name of George W. Bush. But the difference is that Hurricane Katrina was a natural disaster. What we are seeing now is a man-caused disaster, if I can borrow the phrase from Janet Napolitano. President Obama has inherited his own mess, and, you know, being that our economy, our unemployment situation, the creation and expansion of a welfare nanny state, the lack of a foreign policy and national security policy, the failure of Obamacare, this Common Core, all of these things are coming to a head right now, and, you know, it emanates from one single individual. If the president really, I'm going to say something pretty profound, if the president really wants to regain his credibility, he probably needs to look at, you know, seriously coming before the American people and saying, you know, I have not been up to this job, and I think that you're getting close to him probably saying he should resign.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath for that, but that would be that would be an honest move. Colonel, thanks a lot for joining us. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Tucker.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.